if you only had 1 month to get your testosterone as high as possible so that you could become a Greek god, take over the world, and impregnate the girl of your dreams, this is exactly what you should do. It's called the Playboy Protocol. We're gonna go over behavior, diet, training, and a couple of other miscellaneous stuff, including supplements. So if you don't know, my name is Garrett Salem. I am an online fitness coach. I've been jacked for basically a decade, and my testosterone is double that of the average man these days. So let's get right into it. So I've got a couple of behavioral things over here. Number one, kill your father. Now, the reason that you want to kill your father is because you are likely living in his shadow or living for him. There is a book that I highly recommend that you read or listen to the audiobook. It is called The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. A lot of interesting stuff in that book. Kind of gets weird towards the end, but that's besides the point. David goes on to just explain how you need to essentially start to live as though your father has died. He may still be alive, right? But you want to stop living for him. You want to stop second guessing all of your decisions and all of your actions that you're making in life based off what he might think, right? So live your own life. That is the key to this tip, right? So the next thing, quit your job. And obviously don't put yourself in a position to where you're not going to be able to pay your rent, pay for food, or God forbid, you're worrying about a family at this point, right? What I mean by that is take a risk. Don't just stick in this position because it's nice and safe, right? Like just because you're surviving doesn't mean that you're living. We're talking about getting high test here. So you working in a cubicle in a job that you hate for the next 40 years, it sounds pretty low test to me, right? One of the most alive, one of the times you'll feel the most alive in life is right after quitting a job. And you don't necessarily need a backup plan, but have an idea. Like don't just quit your job out of nowhere. Start to think about what you might do if there is a pathway that you can take or there's somebody that could help you get into a position where you could start getting paid for performance or leverage your time better than getting traded than trading time for dollars, right? That's going to be something that you should probably pull the trigger on. Just there will be a moment where you see an opportunity to make the leap. When you see that opportunity, you have to take it. Because otherwise, you're going to talk yourself out of it. You'll forget about it for however many months. It'll bubble back up to the surface. And then next time, what are you going to do again, right? What have you trained yourself to do? You trained yourself that every time this decision, an opportunity or a window shows up, you don't take it. You want to take the safe route, right? Living safe is not high test to a certain degree, right? Obviously, dying is not high test. That's fucking low test. But what I'm saying here is the safe bet ain't always a winning bet. Remember that. So number 3, see girl, talk to girl. See pretty girl, talk to pretty girl, right? Every time you're out in public, right? You don't have to just go approaching girls just for the sake of approaching girls. But when you're going around to wherever you are in life, right? You go to the gym, you go to the store, you go to the, whatever social club that you're in, right? You're frequenting certain places in your life. Obviously, pick better places to be in, but in these places, if you see somebody that's attractive that you would like to know for whatever reason, go talk to them, right? See pretty girl, talk to pretty girl. Don't let your little bitch voice bully you into living like a bitch. Remember that. So, last one, be here. The key here is just presence, right? It's about lowering stress. It's not about thinking to the future or the past all the time. Obviously, that's something that we have to all do in terms of goal setting or just like taking what we've been through in the past and formulating how we should be acting right now. But be here, right? Don't be thinking about next week or the month after. Your life is going to go faster than you could ever imagine. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you can think back right now to maybe the last 5 years and it went like that, right? No matter how old you are. And it just goes faster and faster and faster as you get more reference experience. That's how life is going to go. Before you know it, you're going to be 90 years old and probably dead. So Be Here. If you want a book on, presence, I would highly recommend The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That's, a pretty cliche example of, practicing the power of now. But that was one of the first self-help books that I ever looked into regarding presence and, practicing mindfulness. It's not about being the thinker, it's about being the watcher. Taking a step back, thinking from a third person perspective of yourself sometimes can be really beneficial. But in every waking moment, all of the bad times, all of the good times, appreciate the moment, right? I was talking about this on one of my client calls recently, and I actually made some content about it too on my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, at Garrett Salem. But anyway, the thing that I was speaking about with my client is I can remember times back to when I was first starting out my lifting journey, right? When I was in my parents' basement, like 18 years old, over 10 years ago, and screwing around with all these weights that had cobwebs all over them, listening to like Martin Garrix's radio on Apple Music back in the day, right when it first came out. That sucked so bad. I hated that experience, right? I remember coming upstairs after the workout, mixing my fruit punch creatine with my chocolate protein powder and mixing that shit up and drinking it down and then trying to get in bed because I worked out at 10 p.m. at night. Yet I had taken a pre-workout, which was probably like fucking some shit that's banned now, like Jacked 3D. I took pre-workout like 45 minutes prior. And yeah, you stop in 45 minutes because that was the bodybuilding.com forum science at that point. Like if you work out anything more than 45 minutes, that will be catabolic and not anabolic. This whole scenario back in the day, that was a dreadful experience. I had never worked out before. I was super discombobulated, didn't know what I was doing, was super uncomfortable, hated the entire experience. Yet these days, I look back on that time as one of my most fondest memories, right? You look back on it, even if it was kind of stressful and tough to deal with, you look back on it, in a nostalgic way. So with that in mind, enjoy every part of your journey. It's an integral part of your story. So just because it's uncomfortable in the moment doesn't mean that you can't put a positive perspective on it. Similar to like last week, I was feeling a little bit sick when I was at the gym. I still powered through my workout. And I tried to think about, hey, this is the opportunity to just push through and basically, like, as cheesy as it is to say, like, show myself who I am and like basically show myself what I'm made of, right? There's this quote that one of my mentors used to say, who would have the balls to do that, right? When you're faced with adversity or something's not going your way or the deck is stacked against you, whatever it is, push through it and have pride in pushing through it when the odds are stacked against you, right? Because any other pussy would say, I'm just gonna go home. I feel my stomach. Fuck that. I still worked out. Who would have the balls to do that? And you can apply that on anything that's hard in your life. It doesn't have to just be working out. It could be starting a business, like we were saying, quitting your bitch job, see pretty girl, talk to pretty girl, all that shit. Maybe not killing your father, but you get the picture. So be here, be present. Your life's gonna get a lot more enjoyable and fulfilling if you do that. Let's move on over to diet and nutrition. So let's start here. The animal-based diet is going to be king in terms of you boosting your testosterone. So, Paul Saladino talks about that. All the biohackers pretty much agree on a diet of, red meat, eggs, dairy, fruit juices, stuff like that. So what I focus on if I really want to boost my test is red meat, specifically because of the micronutrient content. So you can get steroid-like results by increasing these steroid hormones in your body and these androgenic hormones like testosterone and DHT. The way that you do that is making sure that you have balanced micronutrients, because that will determine whether or not you have good hormonal health. If you have a good state of hormonal health, right, you have more capacity for muscle growth and fat loss. Is it making sense? You don't need to take TRT or shoot any shit in your ass to build some muscle, right? So red meat, don't eat chicken, right? If you're gonna eat chicken, it would have to be pasture raised, but chicken is just, it doesn't hold a candle to red meat, right? Other things would be eggs for the same reason, the micronutrients, but also the cholesterol. So your grandpa, your great uncle, all these guys who have horrible health will tell you not to have cholesterol, right? Because their fat doctor told them it was bad. Or some, study from the 1900s was saying fucking red meat is bad for you. Even though all of those studies regarding cholesterol or like red meat, like it was based off bologna, hot dogs, and other bullshit like that. So eggs are a great source of dietary cholesterol, as well as, red meat a little bit too. But, aside from the micronutrients in both of these, the cholesterol in the eggs, cholesterol, if you didn't know, is one of the precursors to testosterone. And if you don't have cholesterol coming into your system, you're going to have a very tough time creating testosterone, stimulating testosterone, and other things like DHT, which are going to help you build muscle, lose fat, be a fucking G. So red meat, eggs, raw 100% grass-fed dairy. Probably the most important thing is the 100% grass-fed part. It's similar to here. Like you want pasture-raised eggs. You want 100% grass-fed red meat. That's what I should have set up there, right? So the fact that it's pasture-raised means there's greater micronutrient content. You don't want grain-fed cows. You don't want soy-fed cows. You don't want corn-fed cows. Any of that shit is going to, it's just not going to hold a candle to the micronutrients in a 100% grass-fed cow or grass-fed, pasture-raised chickens and eggs and stuff like that. So raw, also just a lot more, it's just easier to digest. That's number one, but it also has more probiotics, which will be good for your gut. There's other enzymes that are just good for your overall health, and more micronutrients that don't get lost in the pasteurization process. So obviously, you don't want to drink raw milk from a bad source that's fucking old, right? If you're gonna get milk, get it from a farm, local farm, talk to the farmer, shake his hand, look him in the eye, right? Make sure you're taking in good food into your body. Don't just go to some fucking kebab stand in New York City and, let me move on. Anyway, so pomegranate juice. Pomegranate juice will boost your testosterone. It'll also boost your blood flow through breaking up the calcium deposits in your arteries, which is basically, arterial plaque. So when somebody's arteries are all clogged up, it's because they have all these calcium deposits in their arteries, right? So pomegranate juice will boost nitric oxide production, busting those up. And also in a 2-week study of both men and women who had 8 ounces of pomegranate juice daily for about 2 weeks, they saw an average increase of about 24% in men and women. So there's that. Wild boar is another option for you. I haven't really had a whole lot of this, but this is one of the most androgen-dense foods that you could possibly eat. Now, this is definitely not something that you want to eat raw, because pork, not really the greatest for you in the raw form, just because pigs, they don't have a great way to get rid of toxins, right? I'm not sure if they don't have sweat glands. It's something about, the way that they excrete things. They end up having more parasites and or, other issues regarding toxicity. But anyway, if you are going to have wild boar, which is just a really, really testosterone heavy animal, you could have that just as long as it's cooked properly. So that's another option. Not a necessity, but would be nice to have. Honey, another thing. Honey will boost your luteinizing hormone. So having that strictly right before bed, and you can have it other places too, that will actually make sure that you are put in the best position to produce testosterone as you're asleep. Another good thing to do would be having your eggs right before bed, getting that cholesterol in right before you go to sleep. Other things, raisins. This is my bedtime snack. Raisins and also red grapes are a good source of melatonin, but raisins specifically also have boron. I think I misspelled this right here. Raisins. Let's go with that. But yeah, it's the boron content. A lot of people will supplement with boron. The best thing to do with any of these supplements is to get it from your real diet. Will depend on what it is to, decide whether or not it's easier to get it from your diet or not. But raisins are a very easy thing to do. I put it in my yogurt, right? You could put it in your salad. You could just eat it by hand. Whatever you want to do with it, just get them in somehow, right? So now we got behavior, diet done, right? So just meat, eggs, fruit juice, dairy, bee products, right? So not only honey, but bee pollen is good as well. I should have put that on this list. And then royal jelly we'll talk about in a little bit. Let's talk about the training. This is real simple. Don't overcomplicate it. The main idea is you want to do high intensity in short time intervals with long rest periods. So the best workout schedule for testosterone production, hands down, is going to be 3 to 4 days of heavy weight training. The best schedule I've found, what I've been doing for the last 8 years, what I have all my clients do, what I still do today, is lift weights Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So heavy lifting workouts. I do, barbell, dumbbell movements for the most part. Some machines, if it makes sense, for whatever the isolation might be. But the key here is, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're working out for strength, right? So maybe on Monday, I'll do chest and arms. Wednesday, I'll do more legs and abs. And then Friday, I'll do back and shoulders. If you wanted to simplify even more, just do upper, lower, upper. And just make sure that you have a different emphasis on those upper days. Don't do the same upper body workout both times, right? So chest, arms, legs, abs, back, shoulders, that's what I do. The key here is if you're focusing on strength, right? If you're focusing on strength, let me put this in here. Strength, you walk out of the gym, so like strength, I'm just talking about progressive overload, right? Every workout, tracking your workouts, looking back on what you did last week and trying to add a weight or add a rep to each individual set, right? That's gonna force your body to grow over time. That stress response is what's going to increase your testosterone and also help you create more muscle for next time so that you can come back stronger, right? So the key here is you walk out of the gym with multiple personal records under your belt, right? Now you've got 48 hours before you can go back to the gym. Number one, you're itching to get back in there because you're getting addicted to the high of building strength on these lifts, right? And if you're working out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the key here is you have at least 24 to 48 hours for your muscles to recover in between workouts, but you also have 48 hours for your local nerves going throughout your whole body, which are really operating everything. You have 48 hours for those to relax in and recover. And that is where you get this stress reduction, where you're not working out 5, 6, 7 days a week, back to back to back to back to back, just fucking fatiguing the shit out of yourself. If you're just constantly frying your central nervous system, you're not going to be able to get stronger because you are only as strong as your nervous system. Remember that. You are only as strong as your nervous system. That's why no cardio, right? Cardio stresses out your nervous system, especially like long, intensive cardio and just excess cardio, right? If you're just doing a run once a week, that's not going to fuck anything up. I would probably prefer that you do sprints 1 to 2 times a week, right? That's not going to be so over the top. And again, it's short intervals, high intensity, longer rest periods. So maybe you sprint for 10 to 15 seconds, rest 3 minutes. Same deal as your lifting workouts, right? Squat, deadlift, overhead press, dips, maybe some weighted pull-ups, incline bench, stuff like that. You're gonna basically do a set and you're gonna rest 3 minutes minimum between each set. Squats, that is the number one. This is the number one exercise for testosterone. Even though this is a leg exercise, this is a full body lift. Sort of the same deal with deadlifts, but squat is definitely number one. So if you're not squatting and deadlifting, I don't know what you're doing, bro. Get to it. So other thing, overhead press, that's the most caveman shit you could possibly do. Push weight overhead, kind of fun. Weighted dips, it's the most badass exercise there is, honestly. You're just fucking, like Dom Mazzetti used to say, you're fucking hanging weights from a chain, hanging from your dick on an exercise that people can't do with the weight hanging from your bones, right? So you're basically just dipping your 90-pound nutsack in the gym's mouth. That's what you want to do with this exercise. You feel like a baller, you look like a baller. That shit's high test. So strength, no cardio, squat, deadlift, these other exercises, sprints 1 to 2 times a week, maybe. 1 to 2 times a week, maybe. And then lift weights Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is the most important thing, right? This, you don't have to do cardio, but you can. The strength is going to be crucial, right? So just make training simple. Track your workouts, do the same workouts every week, try to add weight or rep to each individual set, and that's going to be it. Let's talk about supplements and some miscellaneous stuff over here. So there's all sorts of supplements in the world. A bunch of different stuff will take your testosterone through the roof. So these experts say, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard of stuff like we were talking about boron, there's Tongkat Ali, right? There's all sorts of other things that you can take. That's all great. Take it if you want to. This stuff is really going to send it through the roof. So before you take any supplements at all, you need to make sure that you have these in check, especially magnesium. So zinc, magnesium, and vitamin D3 plus K2. So zinc, found in stuff like oysters, also red meat, even eggs, this is crucial for your testosterone production. You don't want to have too much of it because it is, something where you can get it toxic in your body. But if you were supplementing with, I don't know, 15 or 20 milligrams daily, that would be sufficient. I've seen guys do as much as 40, but you might even see places where you could get like hair loss from that, right? So zinc, magnesium, you want to take 400 to 500 milligrams daily. Get as much of it as you can through your diet, right? I have stuff like birch tree water, which is a good source of magnesium. I take a magnesium supplement that's 400. You get it from all these other foods that I mentioned here. But the key here is having it right before bed. That way you can sleep better. And if you're sleeping better, the time you're awake is better. And if you're sleeping better after doing these workouts, eating these foods, and living these behaviors so that when your head hits the pillow, you have no fucking doubt about your abilities as a man or your fucking balls. You're gonna sleep like a baby every night, right? So there's zinc, magnesium, and the last one would be vitamin D3 plus K2. You specifically want a D3 plus K2 blend, right? No D2, no K1 or any of that BS. Now, the reason here, vitamin D3, I don't know if you know, that will increase the amount of calcium in your arteries. And as we were saying earlier, calcium in your arteries is what makes up arterial plaque. So more arterial plaque gums up your arteries. That's no bueno for cardiovascular disease. What the K2 will do, number one, have your palm juice, have that Playboy potion so that shit gets busted up. But as this increases the amount of calcium in your arteries, the K2 will help shuttle that into your bones, making your bones stronger, reducing your chances of osteoporosis, and just making you more structurally sound, right? Making your teeth better. It's gonna make your teeth whiter and harder and all around, you're gonna be more structurally sound. So zinc, magnesium, vitamin D3 plus K2, you could do like 10,000 IUs daily. None of this 400 IUs shit, right? You wanna take not a therapeutic dose at like 50 or 100K or more. A lot of people will say you don't want to take too much D3, but the truth is that you would have to be taking hundreds of thousands of IUs of vitamin D3 daily for months on end to ever see any sort of toxicity. And if you talk to people that work in labs or do any sort of blood work, or they're a physician or anything like that, ask them if they've ever seen a vitamin D toxicity. Ask them. It's super rare. Like you probably counted on one hand, if not one finger, the times they have seen it, right? So don't worry about getting toxic. Obviously getting the sun, that's gonna be crucial. I actually should have put that on this list, or actually I did. 1 hour of sunlight daily. But even if you're in the sun all day long, you live in Florida or some tropical island in the middle of nowhere, it's still kind of tough. Maybe not a tropical island, but like if you were in Florida, it would still, and if you were white as shit like me, now I'm getting a little bronze, but in the winter, I am white as sour cream. If you're white like me, it's still very tough to get adequate levels of vitamin D from the sunlight and from your diet, which a lot of people will say, oh, you could get it from your diet. Hell no, you can't, right? So vitamin D3, 10,000 IUs, that's gonna make you feel like a beast. It's gonna increase your testosterone, right? Do your blood work. If it's way too off the charts, drop it down to 5,000 IUs, but 10K is what I usually recommend everybody. Next thing, Shilajit, the destroyer of worlds, or the destroyer of weaknesses. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Moo. It's got a bunch of different names. It's from like the Himalayan mountains. It's the result of plants and potentially even dead animals decomposing over hundreds of years, creates this black sticky substance after a certain amount of condensation. Anyway, what it does is it remineralizes your body. It's also got a compound called fulvic acid in there that pretty much detoxifies your body. This will boost your testosterone, your DHT. It's gonna boost your energy, your vitality, your brain power and mental focus. All these things will, but that is a game changer, because this also This is something that you could take pretty much forever and not have any issues with it. Same deal with royal jelly. These two, these create positive feedback loops, whereas if you took something like Tongkat Ali, which Dr. Andrew Huberman made very popular, that is something where you should probably cycle off of it every now and then. Especially something like Fedosia agrestis, that's not on this list, because I don't want to have to worry about cycling off this shit, right? Like, I just want to be able to take stuff all the time and not have to worry about it, right? Every now and then I'll do it as a break just for good measure, because why not? Why not let your body reset? But this has been around for a long time. This is something that has been used for like millennia, like centuries. And anything like that is usually a green flag. It's this synthetic shit that just came out in a lab like a year ago from your favorite bodybuilder. That's the shit you should probably think twice about taking. Anyway, Shilajit Royal Jelly. This is like honey on steroids. Royal jelly is a substance that the bees make for the queen bee to eat. And this is why the queen bee ends up being twice as big as the worker bees that she was born alongside. So think about that. It makes the queen bee twice as big as the worker bee she was born alongside. What do you think it'll do to you, right? This is a great way to lower prolactin and boost dopamine as well, because prolactin and dopamine have an inverse relationship. So when one is high, the other is low. But this will skyrocket your testosterone. It'll actually really boost growth hormone. It'll help you potentially even grow taller if you're a little kid, right? If you're still in puberty and shit, like you could potentially grow taller. It's just gonna skyrocket your energy, your libido too. Be careful with that. Be careful with all of these, honestly. You're just gonna wanna fuck 24/7. But what you wanna do is channel that energy into your business after you quit your bitch job, right? When you see the pretty girl, talk to the pretty girl. You should be excited because it's a chance to potentially meet a mate. Anyway, Sustanch. This is something that Genghis Khan used to take back in the day. And it's why fucking 6% of Asia can be traced back to this man, right? So not saying that you should go, have 10,000 kids or whatever the fuck he had, right? But this is something that, again, it's a plant, it's an herb, it's something that is found in the earth, it's something that's been used for hundreds and thousands of years at this point. So, hundreds and thousands, not hundred thousands. But anyway, yeah, Sustanch, definitely good to have in. I've had it in the raw form in the past where you drink it like a tea at night. And I've also taken the tablets from something like nootropics.depot.com. But yeah, this is something that I just like having it in my routine. Lucas Owen first told me about this, and yeah, Lucas is definitely the man in terms of men's health, in terms of blood work. If you're not following Lucas Owen at Boost Your Biology, he's Ergogenic Health on Instagram. He does my blood work, right? I used to work under him, got to see him work with his clients. Lucas knows what he's doing. Icing your balls, that's another thing that I got through Lucas. So this is actually pretty cool. This sounds fucking insane, I know, but there's science behind this, right? So when you apply ice to an area, it doesn't have to be your balls, but anywhere, right? It could be on your wrist. When you apply ice, you get a vasoconstriction. The blood vessels constrict and the blood flow slows down, right? When you remove the ice, what do you think happens? The fucking blood flushes right back into that area. If you apply ice to your balls for 10 minutes after you wake up or before you work out or before you're going to bed, you're gonna get that vasoconstriction followed by an overcompensation of a vasodilation where you get a ton of blood flow to that area, to your testicles. And that's where you are able to produce more testosterone. So this is a great way to increase your energy, your libido. Don't put the fucking ice pack right on your skin, right? Use like a cloth or something like that. And don't get your ice pack mixed up with your fucking children, if you have any. Anyway, careful with the ice pack. Anyway, next thing, 1 hour of sunlight daily. I'm not gonna tell you to sun your balls. I don't even know if that's fucking proven to work, right? You can put red light on your balls, but I'm not even going through all that. Just get an hour of sunlight daily, right? Just get that on your skin, preferably with no shirt on. And yeah, even the house plants know to reach for the sun. This is something that I always talk about. If you are consistently feeling like shit, but you were inside most of the time, you're not even trying. right? So just get outside at least 30 minutes, but preferably an hour of sunlight daily, as much as you can, obviously, too. The other thing that's gonna do is help you with the air quality. One of the most toxic things, if not the most toxic thing in your entire house, is gonna be your air. So you just getting outside, not only are you getting the sunlight, but you're also getting that fresh air quality, and you're not breathing in any dust or whatever the fuck is in your house, right? Dirty motherfuckers. So last thing would be sleep naked, right? If you're sleeping with boxers or a t-shirt, you are just, number one, you might be constricting your balls. That's not good. Tight underwear also reduces tests, so keep that in mind. Definitely don't wear polyester underwear. You want to remove toxins. That would be a whole other list in here, but I'm not even gonna get into that. Make sure your water's clean and all your clothes are cotton, and you're not fucking putting like any bad products on your body, which will reduce your hormones. Natural products, if you couldn't take a bite out of it, probably shouldn't go on your skin. Anyway, sleeping naked. If you are restricted at night, number one, you don't want to restrict your balls, like I said, but also your shirt, like getting caught in your arm, can wake you up, right? Your fucking tight boxers, or your boxers in general, you feel restricted, you don't feel free, and therefore you don't sleep as comfortably. We're talking about sleep quality and just making sure that your balls can not be stuck to your leg, not be getting roasted in between your fat ass thighs, right? So all in all, follow everything that's on this list. You're gonna see, maybe if you're not even in a calorie deficit, your fucking body composition is gonna change before your very eyes. You're gonna have more capacity for muscle growth, and especially if you're training for strength 3 days a week, maybe doing some sprints, not doing a ton of cardio, it's gonna be really easy to keep your stress levels low, so your reproductive hormones like testosterone, DHT, and all the other ones associated with muscle growth and fat loss, and your energy, your vitality, brain power, mental focus, all that is gonna go up as your stress hormones go down. So then you won't be fat as shit. Then you'll be able to find the girl of your dreams. Then you'll be able to leave your bitch job, right? Then you'll be able to live life on your terms and not for your daddy. And then you'll be able to be here and enjoy the life of your dreams. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you are looking to get in shape and you don't want to waste a single moment not inside of the body of your dreams, right? Like summer 2025 is here. At the time of this video, it is May like 15th, 2025. Summer is in like a little over a month. It's pretty much here. If you feel behind, book a call with me in the link in the description. We'll talk about your situation, where you're at, where you want to be. I'm not a great fit for everybody, obviously, so I'm sure you could tell that from this video. If you're not a good fit, I'll send you in the right direction. But if you are a good fit, we'll talk about how we could potentially work together and how we can fix whatever you're dealing with so that you can just move on to bigger and better things than your body fat percentage and your fucking low energy. So I hope this has been helpful. Please like the video, subscribe for more in the future. And if you're not following me on Instagram, at Garrett_Salem, hit me up on there. And yeah, guys, enjoy the video. Talk to you soon.